Welcome, everyone, to the Magnetically Aligned Women event. Walk into your power through self love, self worth, and authenticity. Today, I have Jace. She is a tireless rebel of the status quo, a leader in the radical love revolution, and the founder of the Illumitoirum, your online dojo for self mastery. She has been featured on screen, online, and in print across the globe as a pioneer in battling stigma around addiction and trauma, shifting the way people perceive adversity and empowering others to use their past to thrive in the present. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being here, Jace. Welcome.
Thank you. That's the always the weirdest part of any talk is like just weirdly sitting through your bio. I'm like, yes, that is I. I did these
Well,
things. So that's it. That was the most uncomfortable part. Let's rock it. Let's do it. We're gonna kick it off now.
amazing. Now, I want to hand it over to you. I would love to hear a little bit more about your background and what inspired you to do what you do now.
Mm. Well, that's perfect because today is all about stories and storytelling and the most powerful story ever told. And my story is part of that. And I'll tell you, there's this one story that was passed down in my dad's family from generation to generation. When I was a kid, I heard it all the time. I've gotten older and I've heard from other people it's a story that many kids were told. You might have heard a version yourself. We'll see. My dad, though, was a theatrical man who didn't just tell the story. No, he acted it out. And man, did he give an Academy Award winning performance. I mean, I really bought it and it stuck. Whether this story was shared through word or action, I always got the same message. I am not enough. Because I was told this story at such a young, vulnerable age, I grew up believing it was true. Might have been seen as a great motivator from the outside. I mean, as an effort to prove it wrong, I put extra effort into everything. You can relate, right? Oh man, I was MVP of the basketball team. I got voted student council vice president, graduated college with distinction, landed that respectable job. If you'd have seen me from across the room, you'd have thought I was successful. Problem was, that too was a story. It was that shiny story that I told everyone around me to distract them. At one point in my life, it was nothing but stories. And I lived in constant fear that one day people would really see me and learn the truth. I am not enough. Might be wondering at this point, enough what? That kind of became a fill in the blank story. I was not smart enough, not pretty enough, not thin enough, didn't make enough money. I wasn't feminine enough, not good enough. That eventually became, I am not worthy enough to be alive. In May of 2014, I prepared for my suicide. The reality behind that shiny story I was telling everyone was that I hated being me. And I was deep in addiction. You see, I'd gotten it wrong. The message I'd received from that story so many years before was that I am not enough to be loved. Though my father had been long deceased, I continued the family tradition. I told myself that story every single day. I'd say things like, I'm too fat to be attractive. I am never going to get that promotion. I don't deserve to be happy. I can't do this, or I'm bad at that. If anyone really knew me, they'd hate me. Through the power of the subconscious mind, these messages became my reality. My life was full of proof that I was not enough to be loved. It showed up as one dead-end relationship after another, being overdrawn from my bank again, losing that respectable job I'd mentioned. Most notably, it showed up in the way I let people treat me. I had had enough. Then something happened that changed everything. I ended up in a 12-step program instead of 6 feet in the ground. But it wasn't actually getting sober that made the difference, though that certainly helped. Now, I want to share with you the greatest gift I was given there. These people society deems as addicts, criminals, degenerates. They gave me love when I didn't think I deserved it. Hell, I didn't even think I wanted it. Their love gave me strength, but real strength, the strength that only comes from vulnerability. That strength made me strong enough to look at that old story right in the face. I looked long enough and far back enough that I saw the truth. Love, it's not a commodity. It can't be earned or traded. Love comes for free or not at all. The truth is, I am lovable. I've always been lovable. I will always be lovable. I am love personified in the form of a 5'7", fierce, kind, creative, untamable woman. I am love. They can't take it. I can't earn it. We all deserve it. My dad's old story was a lie. This is my new story. It's a true story. And it's the one I tell myself every single day. The most powerful story ever told is the one we tell ourselves. The question isn't, are you a storyteller? It's what story are you telling? If you're not sure, just look at your life. Of all the people I've worked with or observed, I found this story, this bullshit story, if I'm allowed to curse on here, I guess I should have asked beforehand, that I am not enough to be loved or accepted is at the core of every person. And that makes sense when we learn just a little bit about survival, brainwaves, and the ego. I'm hoping we'll get to talk a little bit about all of those things in our chat today.
Oh, most definitely. That was powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, oftentimes, I find so much relatability behind your story. That core wound that we carry of inadequacy, of you will never be enough, always constantly striving to reach the next level of enoughness. But when do we even hit that, right? Who defines that? Was that your father who defined it? Was it my mother who defined it? And so constantly striving. And this is the most important thing, is that when we are brought up in this environment being told we're not enough, but then growing up and just embodying that because you start believing that, that is when the limiting beliefs, the blocks, the everything that you do, all the relationships that you fall into or get into, it starts serving your core belief of I am not enough, I was never enough, and I'm inadequate to deserve, to feel worthy of receiving. And so every situation that you find yourself and circumstance that you find yourself in, it's not a pleasant place. So I am blown away by your story, Jace. Thank you for sharing that because it is so powerful. It is something that a lot of people have subconsciously grew up in this environment, me myself included, being told, only when you do something for me do you deserve to be rewarded. And that was from my own parents. Oh, you work for me every weekend. You're such a good girl. Until I hit, college years, it was no longer what mom and dad wanted. It was, well, I kind of want to do things this way. And I kind of feel obligated that I have to stay and do all these things. There's resentment. There's me trying to pull away, but being stuck, kind of like in imprisonment of the situation. Like, of course, I want all that love and attention and deservingness from my parents. And where does that end? It just never ends until awareness sets in, until we set those boundaries. So I want to go into what you have discovered about like how can we shift ourselves from the situation that we've become aware. How do I get out of this, Jace? Like, where do I even start?
You start by being in this conference right here. Like, this is the place to be, right? It's what we're talking about. I want to dig a little bit deeper before we move into actual boots on the ground work that can be done, which we are going to talk about. And I'm going to tell you, it's a radical method. It works, but it is radical. We'll talk about that in a minute. But we think of these things as beliefs, right? And we often hold them as like, I am an adult and I believe this. But what's really happened, we have to go all the way back to the beginning, because this is something that's in everyone. Every person has to do this work, has to stop and come into awareness and rewrite their story. Nobody's done anything wrong. It's not bad. Nobody, you didn't mess up somehow down the road or miss an important lesson or anything. This happens with all of us because when we are infants, we actually, the brain as a survival mechanism, because when we're kiddos, we rely on our caregivers to survive. It's all survival when we're young, especially when we're babies. And infants actually are able to pick up the feelings of others, and the brain adjusts the baby's behavior in attempt to receive connection, which is acceptance, love, and survival. And so this actually starts, it's not a belief, it is a brain function that is built in, that starts on day one. So let's say you cry a lot and that brings mom in or dad in. And then the brain says, great, this is how to do this, right? So we cry. If we cry and nobody comes, the brain will change the behavior in a baby to not cry, because that's not getting the connection, which is indeed survival. And as we get a little bit older, we kind of start putting these things together. The brain's doing its thing, just biologically, it's all survival at that point. And kids learn, oh, if I say this, oh, I'm a good boy. Like you said, oh, do this, you're good, you're this. And they don't realize what's actually going on, but it's actually shaping the brain. And when we're in our first 6 to 7 years of life, we're just in the theta brainwave. We are not in a space of consciousness yet. The theta brainwave is where people go when they're hypnotized. It's hypnosis. There's no filter. Everything gets in at that stage. The brain and the mind, conscious or subconscious, is not going, well, that doesn't seem true, or that's not healthy, or that abuse coming from dad, that's not okay for that to be going on. Hey, just ignore that. You'll find out later that that's not true. No, none of that is happening. It's all coming in. And because as kids, we don't have any connection to the world except ourselves, right? We're our own point of reference. Our perspective is pretty limited as kids. So everything that happens around us when things don't go well, we think it has to do with us. We don't think like, oh, I think, mom's been working really hard and she's had a tough day. And I don't think she really meant that. She's just tired. No, kids go, this is me. I'm bad. Something's wrong with me. And not their fault. That's just how we're designed in that phase. And it would be so great if we came from a society and a culture where parents were healthy and they'd done their healing and they knew about child development and the brain and all that stuff. And they were just, we had this like whole village environment ensuring that children know they're valuable, they're inherently worthy, they are love them itself, they are power beyond measure, right? And everybody facilitated that. That'd be great. And we don't live there yet. I think our generation is moving in that direction of getting into all of those things, but we don't. So these aren't just beliefs. This is actually wiring that has happened in the brain that has to change. And we are told hundreds of thousands of times as kids, no, you can't do that. Be careful. You're not able to do that. You're too small for that. It's just this barrage from a good place, because our caregivers want us to be safe. They want to keep us alive. That's their job. But those messages just come in as this idea that there's something wrong with me. I haven't met a person that does not have some version of that. And it feels terrible because it's not true. And that's something we'll move into, that when things are true, they feel good. We are designed for pleasure. We are designed to feel good. It's a communication system in our body. So when we feel not good, unpleasant, there's something off. And so we're striving, like you said, what is it going to take? How far do I have to go? What do I have to do? How high do my grades have to be? How much money do I need to make, right? I'm going to just tell you, none of that will ever work. I know you know this already, and I imagine most of the people in this conference do. It will never work, because if it is not in alignment with what you believe to be true, what you think is reality, that you don't even know is in there because it was programmed from the beginning, it will never be enough. Not only that, but anytime someone comes at you with something that's outside of that story, you'll think that there's either something more wrong with you or something wrong with them, and you'll push them away even further, because it is very confusing and upsetting to the brain and the ego to have something new come in. So it's just a whole mess that happens until we actually stop. We move into conscious awareness. We honor and use the brain for what it's good at, which is indeed our survival. That's the brain's top priority, but we don't let it rule us anymore. And if you'll ponder with me for a moment, what would your life look like if you took all that energy you put into being accepted and transformed it into being inspiring? When we accept ourselves and love ourselves completely, we don't have to be on that hamster wheel of trying to receive acceptance, trying to receive love, validation. None of that exists anymore. And all of that energy, and you'll find as we go into this, and if people really start developing awareness around this, the immense amount of time, energy, and effort that goes into just, please love me, please accept me, just see me and accept me, right? When we can just be like, here I am, I love me, I accept me, I'm very badass, like take it, leave it, you're great too, love you, enjoy your life. Like, then we get to actually live into our purpose. We are aligned. Then we are not looking at, am I enough, but can I do enough? Can I show up in the world? Am I really embodying my meanness, my bigness? Am I here doing what I came here to do? Right? It's a totally different life you get to live. And I'm going to tell you, it's a whole lot more fun.
I can attest to that. Now, when you talk about like when you feel out of alignment, right? Or like alignment in general,
Yes.
can you give us a brief overview of what that looks like, or what you mean by alignment?
Alignment is what we refer to, it's kind of a little box that we put a lot of things into, but when we're inside of our integrity meaning integrated. So things that are real and true for us and that lie within our values, which we have also evaluated and continue to reevaluate because we continue to grow, all of those things are lining up. We are what I call living in the world as the person we want to be, living the life we want to live. So we're actually having agency over ourselves and over our experience, and in turn, our life. That's what I teach. That's the path of self-mastery. So that feeling, when we're feeling joy, when we're feeling exalted and enthusiastic, and just that like yes as a verb, you know, you ever have like a day where you're like, this is a yes day. I'm just going to yes the hell out of today. Like that is when we're in alignment. That's what it feels like. It's a whole body sensation. We get bigger. It's expansive. Where when we're out of alignment and we're in this just crumb BS junk of not being enough, which just isn't true. I'm going to tell you right now, there's absolutely nothing you can do to be more lovable. And there's nothing you can do to be less lovable. You are love itself. That's the fabric of the universe. It's in our DNA. It is our DNA. So just, you can quit your efforts now. You're as lovable and as acceptable as you'll ever be, so long as you have that within and you come to know that yourself.
Now, that is such a powerful message that it's found within. Oftentimes, we're looking outside for exterior motivation, exterior validation to feel that way inside. So, how would you go about, let's say, like, how do we create that inner stability, that inner foundation, so that things that other people say to you, such as, well, I feel like you don't look as nice today, or I feel like you're not worthy and you don't deserve all of these things, which we hear very often as women in general. She's prettier than me. Oh, why don't you look, like why didn't you put on makeup today? Right? And so these little things always trigger that feeling of unworthiness. How do we create that inner stability so those little things do not affect us?
I love this question. Imagine for a moment you're walking through a grocery store and you hear a mom telling her young daughter, "You're not pretty enough. Look at her. She's so much prettier than you." How would you feel?
Absolutely, like, I cannot believe she just said that.
Yeah, like maybe you want to call Child Protective Services, or look how fat you've gotten. Or you think you're getting that job? You got to be kidding yourself. Oh, you think she's going to love you? Why would she? If you heard a parent saying any of those things to a child, you'd probably get pretty angry. Yeah? Break your heart a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yet somehow, and because it goes back to that core story, we think it's okay to talk that way to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it okay for us to say, oh, I should have put on makeup today? Oh, she looks so much better in that dress than I would. Oh, he or she will never find me attractive. Or, oh, of course my boss chose so-and-so for the promotion because, why would they choose me? Like, why is that okay to say that to ourselves? Why do we not get furious? Why don't we mama bear and mama papa that business? Because we're used to it. And it's in alignment with our story. So I'm going to present something. And I will tell you the objections people come up with right away for it, because it is radical and it makes people really uncomfortable. And it's silly, so it's fun. The first step in how to eradicate all of this stuff is to be listening for it. So I want to encourage everyone, for a day, for a week, listen to the things you think and the things you say about yourself and log them. Just write down the things you're catching. Put a reminder in your phone if you need to. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be thinking. I'm supposed to be hearing those things. Start paying attention to it. This is where the awareness piece comes in. And we can't do anything unless we know what's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have to have a way to create a practice to start listening for these things that we say to ourselves and write them down. Don't keep them up here. This is where the problem is. Don't keep things in the problem, right? That's not going to be helpful. So actually write these things down. And once you have a nice big list, I'm going to give you the end of the sentence that's been missing from all of these that is going to transform your life if you allow it. Most people right away, they're like, that's too simple. It's not going to work. It's too weird. It's too silly. This, that, and the other. Don't believe me. Validate me. Do this for a week and see how you feel. So let's take that sentence of, okay, I think I'm not pretty enough. We'd write that down. And the end of the sentence is, and I really love that about myself. I don't think I'll ever make enough money. And I really love that about myself. I was supposed to be working on that proposal for my boss and I didn't. And I binged watched instead. And I really love that about myself. I already gave up on my New Year's resolution and I really love that about myself. Now people come up with two objections straight away. One, but Jace, I don't love that about myself. Mm-hmm. Therein lies the problem. Love cannot have conditions with it. Let's take that mom. If she said, oh, sweetheart, I love everything about you. I love you so much, but you need to lose 10 pounds for you to be accepted. That's not love. We'd be like, that mom sucks. She's not doing a great job today, right? Love is all encompassing. You can't love yourself and hate part of yourself. It just won't work. I'd say try it, but let's be real. We've all been doing that our entire lives. You can't look at the shiny things and love those and then shove everything else aside. Because what you're going to do is you're going to spend your life trying to keep that stuff hidden. You're going to try to run from it. You're going to try to excuse it. You're going to keep turning your back to it. You're wasting all of your energy. So instead, I want you to just look at it. All of that stuff that's so scary, turn the light on. That's that awareness. Turn the light on, listen to it without judgment, because love and judgment don't go together, right? So we're talking radical love, radical acceptance. And by that, I mean, it all gets to be loved. You don't have to like it. I missed that deadline and I really love that about myself, but you don't have to like it. And it doesn't mean, the second objection people hit me with is, well, if I love it, then it will never change. But that's not true at all. The reason that we do things that are outside of alignment is because we don't love ourselves. Why am I going to harm my body if I love myself? Why am I going to put things in my body that don't serve me if I love myself? Why am I going to be in this relationship if I love myself, if it's someone who does not honor me? Why am I sitting binge watching TV night after night after night? To avoid all this shit I don't want to look at, because if I look at it, then I have to face that there's something wrong with me. But there's nothing wrong with you. There's never been anything wrong with you. And if you can look at that stuff and love it, just that it's there and that it has been part of you, that is when things start to change. When a lot of it will actually take care of itself, because its origin is in us not loving ourselves. So if we just go right on ahead and love ourselves in a whole kind of radical full way, then so much of that harmful stuff goes away and we start thriving. As simple as it sounds, adding that to the end of every judgmental thought, every mean thing, every fear, all of the demons, the dragons, the shadows, all the stuff we want to avoid, when we can just look at them instead and say, I see you. I love you. They're not going to grow. Shadows don't grow the more light we put on them. They disappear.
I love that analogy. I've never heard that one before.
I haven't either. That just came through my mouth. Thanks, this moment.
Shining light on your shadows actually makes the shadows disappear. I love that.
Yeah. So it's silly, and I really love that about myself, with enthusiasm when you can, right? Get excited about who you are. And the thing is, people are often baffled when they hear my full story, sexual abuse and trauma and addiction. And I lived as a very shitty person for a very long time. I lived a double life for over 2 decades and I was not showing up in the world well. Mm-hmm. And now I'm so excited to be Jace Downey, or as my clients call me, Jace motherfucking Downey. And I am thrilled to be this person in the world. And they go, well, how did you get there? When you've done so much, when all of this has happened to you, which I don't believe in, but you've had such a hard life. How have you come to this? It's because I looked at all of it and I just decided to love it. I'm just going to love all of it. Not all of it's my favorite.
Yeah.
But I love it because it is part of me. That stuff that has gone on in my life helped create this person who I am now, who I love madly. So how could I hate it? How could I be angry with it? How could I ever want to turn my back on it?
Mm-hmm.
It's all a part of me. This amazing, magnificent wonder of a human.
I love the radical acceptance that you have. It's something like, this is something that I've practiced personally too. And I always start my videos with some funny thing like, my hair's a mess today, but I love it. Or like, oh, I'm growing a pimple, but that's okay. I'm human. I love that. Right. And so when you start saying these things, it's reprogramming your brain in a way where all the things that used to be not enough, where all the things that used to make you feel uncomfortable and insecure and unworthy, it's not, it doesn't hold power over you anymore.
It's true. It's so freeing. Though I want to put out a distinction because it's very important. The difference between but and makes all the difference. My hair's a mess, but I love that is negating it when we want to bring it into the fold. My hair's a mess and I love that. Do you get the difference?
Yes.
With that, we don't want to, oh, well, I guess I still will accept that. No, and it's part of me. My messy hair, my pimples, I'm grumpy today. That's my experience. And I love that about myself. And the fun thing is catching. Do it silently if you must, but do it out loud when you can. And all of my clients who do this, their spouses get on board, their families get on board. At first as a joke, like they start teasing, oh, and I really love that about myself, but you better believe it becomes the saying in the household because it feels good to stop rejecting these parts of ourselves. It feels good to not be mean. Like most of us have been in an incredibly abusive relationship for the majority of our lives. It feels great to break up with that abusive relationship and move into one that's loving and accepting. And the thing is, we say like, so yeah, we try to find it outside, but it's inside. It's only inside. I can't be more clear about that.
Mm-hmm.
This can only come from the inside. And we see this often in the second half of life, or as people get to the end of their life, they've spent most of their life striving. Am I enough yet? Am I enough yet? Am I lovable? Am I acceptable? Did I do it? Is this good? Am I worthy? I have this. Is this enough? Right? And then they get older and they realize, oh, that wasn't the answer. It's family, it's relationships, it's how I'm showing up in my community. It's my passions. It's living into purpose. It's becoming a person I love, respect, and admire. And they do that then. I'm encouraging us to do that in the first half of our life. And most of us have already tried that. We've gotten the degrees, we've gotten the jobs, we've gotten the picture perfect house, we've done the whatever, and we still don't feel great. We're still not thriving. As a society, we're certainly not thriving. So let's mix it up. Don't believe me, validate me. Try this. And I really love that about myself. And see what happens.
So powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And I know you have something special for the audience to participate in. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, so we'll do a little, I have a little mini course that talks about the importance of yourself being your most powerful teammate and how to actually do that. So talking about getting rid of shame, getting rid of the judgment, and bringing in this modality of radical self-love and acceptance. It's less than a half an hour. It's short. I know we're going to be packing in a lot of information with this conference, but they can go to the link and get that for free. And I was thinking this morning as well, if anyone wants, I have another short course on subconscious reprogramming. Send me an email. Will my email be included somewhere?
It's just a freebie link.
Okay, then connect at jacedowney.com and I'll give you access to the subconscious reprogramming course as well, because they pair really nicely together. So you can have both of those for free. Not because I'm nice or awesome or I was required to do it for this conference, but because I have a vision for a world full of people who actually love themselves. And let me tell you, it is the revolution. It is the greatest act of rebellion. Because when you do not need the acceptance of other people, you are not controllable. You are free. You are the scariest person in any room because you are acting solely in alignment with who you truly are, living the life you want to live. And other people can join and celebrate you, or they can step aside and enjoy their own life.
Yeah.
But they can't control you anymore. And a world full of those types of people, especially women, as we move into the strong feminine age, the better my world gets to be. So this really is a selfish act above all things. I want to live in that world. And it's got to happen person to person.
Thank you for sharing that. And trust me, I want to live right there, right next to you. And it all starts with you. It really does. So if you have like a big vision to change the world, it really begins right where you are. And as you're speaking, it's so funny. As you're speaking, my baby's like going crazy.
Yes, I want this world. We need it.
I
And then that's the really cool thing, because think of the mom you're being now. Probably very different than the caregivers you had, right? So like, not only that's why this is a big deal. It's not like, oh, now I live a better life and it's pretty fun and like I, really enjoy my time with myself or whatever. Yeah, that's cool. That's neat. But we now are stopping the cycle of
mm,
this old story. We don't need to tell it anymore. We've told it for long enough. It's outdated. Let's rewrite it person to person and pass a new story down to the next generation. The new story says, you are lovable beyond measure. You are infinite potential. You are the entire universe in the dense focal point of this tiny human.
mm.
Let's tell that story.
And that vibration that you're talking about, that is powerful.
Mm, yes.
Ability within, that is powerful. So, everyone who is watching, as always, I am going to link Jace's freebie down below and you can connect with her. It was connect at jacedowney.com.
Yes, ma'am.
And yes, thank you, Jace, for being here. And I cannot wait to see you guys in the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Adios.